welcome to the West London Sport QPR podcast. I'm David McIntrye, and I'm here because I failed to sign a permanent replacement for Dan Bennett and then ran out of excuses for not coming on here myself. Dan, as our regulars will know, did an excellent job establishing and hosting this podcast prior to his Mick Beale moment a few months back, shall we call it that? And replacing him with me is a little bit like replacing Clive Wilson with Nico Hammerleinen, but let's make the best of it, eh? And I won't be getting a 4-year deal, I can assure you of that. Dan's still a friend of ours, despite being a massive Judas, and I believe one day he will see the error of his ways and return to the fold. Until then, I'm joined by two people who do understand loyalty and integrity. They are West London Sport's Ian McCullough, and because from the outset on the podcast I wanted a popular former QPR player on, and Paul Parker had too many other commitments, Kevin Gallen. Let's get to it then, lads. Rangers 6 points adrift, had lost 6 matches on the bounce, and let's face it, were rubbish and definitely going down when Marti Cifuentes came in. Stayed up with a game to spare. It's a job very well done, eh, Kev?
Yeah, he's done very well considering the situation he took over. It was desperate times at that stage of the season. I do believe that things could only have got better because it was so bad beforehand. And yeah, he came in and he had an immediate impact. You know, we actually, I think, for the first time got a managerial bounce where we got some wins. We got a vital home win to, you know, get that sort of monkey off the back because we couldn't win at home for love nor money. And that happened. And then there was a bit of a lull around, you know, end of mid-December, end of December and January. And then it picked up again, made some 4 signings and let go some players who weren't really up to the job and freed up some money. And I think the major thing for me is I think he realised, you know, I believe that he came in thinking he was going to sort of play a sort of a Spanishy type passing game, and he started off like that. And then I think he realised very quickly that wasn't going to work. And in the end, he's gone for a really big, strong, powerful QPR team, which has done really well. And I think one of the biggest problems he had when he first joined was conceding goals from corners. And he's, in the last month, 6 weeks, he stopped that. And not only did we stop conceding from set pieces, we're now going down the other end and scoring from set pieces where we weren't doing that either. So, you know, on those two aspects, I think have been absolutely vital for the reasons QPR have stayed up. Jimmy Dunn coming in at right back might have raised a few eyebrows because when he did play at centre back, he wasn't having a great time. But what that did, I believe, was strengthen us big time with an extra header for defending set pieces, as with bringing in Isaac Hayden and Anderson, who's another 6-footer, but also as a threat going attacking set pieces. And we've seen for maybe, I think it was a goal against Birmingham where Jimmy Dunn headed it down for Steve Cook to score. And then 3 days later did exactly the same thing against Swansea, where he's rose at the back post, knocked it down, and Steve Cook produces a finish that any striker would have been proud of. But I think those were the major factors. And also getting Chris Willett back in the team, where he was sort of, I don't know, an outcast, or he didn't look like he was that interested in playing under the previous manager. The previous manager couldn't get a tune out of him. He brought him back in the team, which me and Ian have to say were champion for the last 6, 7, 8 months, maybe more Ian than me. I think those major factors that Isaac Hayden came in, another big 6-footer, stands in front of the back four, makes the defence a lot more tighter, a lot more stronger, and not conceding goals. And I think it's been, you know, a great sort of comeback since February onwards.
Just to say, I think we've got a little bit of a lag from myself to Kevin for those listening, so apologies for that. Ian, you've long been a massive fan of Marti. I think right from the start. even more so now, I imagine. Great achievement by him. But for the club, is this something to celebrate? Is this a time for celebration, or is it a time more for maybe reflecting and resolving that this, really can't happen again?
I think you'd be very churlish to say you can't celebrate what happened on Friday night against Leeds. I think if you look at the bare facts, New Year's Day, they lost at home to Cardiff. They were second bottom with 21 points. And, I'm quite largely an optimistic type. Losing at home at Cardiff after losing to Millwall on Boxing Day, you kind of think this is not going to end well. The bounce that he had earlier in sort of November time seemed to have kind of dissipated. If you look at it now, 21 points, after 26 games, and you look at the table now, it's, 19 games later, they got 53 points and, comfortably clear of, the drop zone. And that's a remarkable achievement, really, because bar Lucas Anderson, the team that started on Friday against Leeds were all players that were at the club at the start of the season. So with the same players, he's come in and, worked out what works, what doesn't work, made ruthless decisions. I think Ozin Kakai, who, for all his endeavour and, effort, is not a player probably that's good enough for this level of football. And, he jettisoned him sort of after the Millwall game. Andre Giselle, another player that flatters to deceive, was offloaded after that defeat against Cardiff and sent to Birmingham. And, bringing in size and power in the middle of the park has been crucial because, poor old Sam Field for 18 months has been a one-man midfield. And with him, Colback and Hayden, you've got players that can all play that role. And if one drops out, you've got two in there that can play the role. So he's done really, really well. And it's been a horrible season, let's be frank about it. It's a tough division and that, but, you shouldn't really be celebrating. QPR shouldn't be saying just staying in the Championship. But in a weird kind of way, that the second half of the season has been some real high points, real memorable moments. Probably in the last sort of 10, 12 years, the Birmingham game, the Leeds game Friday, the game against Millwall, the away wins at Leicester, wins at Blackburn. There's been some real kind of positive moments. And it's almost a polar opposite to last season where the team started so well under McBeal and then faded so badly under Ainsworth in the back half of the season. This season, it's been a disaster before Christmas and it's been pretty good sort of after. So I guess it's a bit of both, isn't it? You celebrate staying up, but I think you have to look forward and say this can't happen again. The season like this can't happen again, and they need to get this right and to move the club forward.
Guy, isn't he, Marty? No doubt done a very good job. But Kevin, how much of this is down to what a great job he's done, and how much is it really a reflection of just how bad things were? I mean, things were terrible. The team just, was abysmal at the time that he came in. He's just brought back some normality. Like you said, he's done some of the things that we would have done and many other managers would have done. He's gone back to the reliance on Willock and Chair. He's changed a few other things. How much of it is down to him, and how much of the improvement is simply him restoring some kind of normality to what was quite a crazy situation?
Yeah, I think he's used common sense. I mean, if anyone was listening to this podcast over the last 18 months, well, me in particular, I've always said that, unfortunately, I like him as a bloke, but I always said that Osman Kakai. I always was talking about we need another two right backs. I always thought Osman Kakai wasn't good enough for the Championship, and I stated that was a sensible decision. I always said Dazelle was, a couple of nice passes here and there, and a goal against, I think it was at Middlesbrough. But that was it. I didn't think you could rely on him in a scrap. I think he's just done some sensible, decisions that I believe that most of the crowd would have done if they were in that position. But there's no doubt he's done well. Bringing Willock back was, obvious because he's a talented player. What I always say about Willock was he had, in January, he had 4 or 5 months to either get a new contract at QPR or secure himself a contract somewhere else. So he's always going to turn up and play in this situation. and he's done well. Anderson, he's done well because he's sort of, I always thought Elliott's chair set pieces, he'd never really beat the first man, where he did occasionally, but it was so inconsistent. Anderson's set pieces have been good. Isaac Hayden's come in, experienced, big, tough, not very good passing the ball, but stands there, protects the back four, bringing Jimmy Dunn into a right back. I think he's made real sensible decisions. And I keep going back, but he's realised that he kept conceding goals from set pieces. And he figured that out very well, not early, but he did figure it out. And he brought Jimmy Dunn in for an extra header. He brought Isaac Hayden in, even Michael Frey when he played. I mean, I was at the Swansea game it was Easter Monday, and I looked at the team, and at the end of the game, Chris Willock and Sinclair Armstrong was our smallest players. And that is a big, powerful team. So he's realised the Championship is a tough division. It's be interesting to see when he gets to pre-season, will he keep with a big, powerful team and good defensive set pieces and good attacking set pieces? Because unfortunately for QPR, goal scoring has been a problem with the strikers. I think, Dykes has got 6. Centre forward, Sinclair Armstrong's only scored 3, but Dykes has scored 2 in the last 2 games. So 2 weeks ago, he only had 4. So it's been a problem. So he's realised that. So he wanted an extra header attacking, and we've scored some really good goals from set pieces as well. So I think he's been very he's thought it through. He's very sensible. But I'm wondering, is he, when he gets to pre-season, when he gets the players that maybe he wants in the summer, is he going to go back to what he probably thinks is his original style of football, is sort of passing out from the back, or is he going to keep with big, strong and powerful? It'd be interesting to see. I don't know.
Well, the thing about Marti that I've kind of understood very quickly from dealing with him is that he is a pragmatist. I mean, he does have ideas, but he is willing to kind of go with the flow when it's necessary, and he's done that. Like you said, that's been a big factor really in what he's achieved down there. I think you also need a little bit of luck. It's about how you make the most of that luck. And Tony Mowbray, being an old mate of Andre Dezel's dad and taking him to Birmingham, I think was a bit of a touch. I mean, it enabled, as you said, Rangers to move on a player who I don't think was a good signing and wasn't what they needed, and bring in a couple of others who've made a difference. Ian, how important do you think that's ended up being, that deal, in terms of its significance for QPR and for Birmingham? It looked like they might go down.
Yeah, I think, just as I touched on already, you need to play in the way that Swindon want to play. You need legs in midfield, and there were no legs. And I think Jack Colback's a very good player. If you take away the unnecessary bookings he keeps picking up, he's been a decent signing, but he's 34. You can't expect him to play week in, week out. And so, with Hayden, who the player they've long coveted and tried to sign sort of 6-7 years ago, I think it was, and also again last season, I think they tried to get him. But he's a good age. He's 27. He's a good experienced pro. Does a job. But I think if you look at again, I'll go back to bare facts. Dezel, 2 assists, 2 goals in 3 years. And you look at Sam Field, he's got 3 goals this season. Anderson's got 5 assists, I think, and scored a goal the other night. It's just, as Kevin, it's quite obvious, really, isn't it? What you need and what you can do. But I think the Championship is littered with numerous foreign managers that have come in, not known the division, not known the game, not come in with ideas, and they've burnt out and not made any impact whatsoever. So, and particularly at QPR, I mean, the managerial bounce syndrome is, it seems to happen everywhere but Loftus Road. It never happens. I mean, if you look over the last sort of 30 years, Neil Warnock did it, I guess, when he came in and then got the team promoted. And I think prior to that, the only one I can remember is Don Howe. Don Howe came in after Trevor Francis got sacked. Am I right there? Is that right? The team were in the relegation zone and finished sort of top half of the table in the old First Division. So in between that, there's been, dozens of QPR managers that have come in mid-season, and it rarely works, doesn't it? So what he's achieved, I think, should be celebrated in that respect. And but again, Kev's always said management. It's about man management, how you deal with players, and communication. I mean, the most impressive thing about him is the way he does communicate. You know, for English is not his first language, but he speaks clearly and eloquently, and you know, has picked up the slang. And you know, you speak to players about him, they all say he's a really, really nice guy. The players like him. He's approachable. You can go and chat to him. You know, if you get left out, he'll come over and explain to you why you're left out. So you throw that in together in the mix, and you know, they've got a guy there who's a very good manager. But let's not stop. You know, let's see how he is after a full pre-season and what happens next season, because you know, every game he's had in charge has been a must-win almost. The pressure's been on. So let's see how he is with a clean slate, what he does, who he brings in, who he gets rid of. But I do think, you know, for the first time in a while, there's quite a bit of optimism going into next season.
Yeah, I mean, on that note, though, I mean, you know, what does need to change, and there will be a few things that have to change, and are going to. I mean, we talked about the reliance on Chair and Willock, and those three attacking players behind the striker. That's been important, and that may have run its course now. There might need to be a kind of new plan in place for next season, depending on who goes. I mean, aside from the goalkeeper thing, which I think we've touched on before, where do Rangers go now in terms of that kind of dynamic further forward? There isn't a goal scoring striker in the squad. There's a bit to do, isn't there, Kev?
I think it's another big close season for QPR. Obviously, a new goalkeeper. I just got to say that before I forget that the pairing of Clark Sauter and Steve Cook has been vital for staying up, keeping them two fit. You know, Clark Sauter we've always known he was a good player, but never could stay fit. And Steve Cook is an experienced defender who's played at Premiership level and has done extremely well. Back to what we were saying, Willock's contract's up. Is he going to stay? Is he going to go? There's rumours that he's going to go. His Chair only got 1 year left.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think he does.
Chair's got 1 year left. So you either give him a new contract now, or you sell him and try and get some money to reinvest in the squad. Are we going to go into the season as Jimmy Dunn as our number one right back? Maybe, but still need another maybe right back because Reggie Cannon doesn't seem to fit what the manager wants. Backup left back, Morgan Fox, has he got another year? Or there's quite a bit to do because Isaac Hayden has to go back. Is he coming back to us or is he going to stay? He's probably on big money. He's going to take a massive wage cut, or Newcastle are going to subsidise that for him to come to QPR. We'll see. Striker-wise, I don't know what the Michael Frey situation is because no one was told. Was he signed to the end of the season or has he got another year? But I don't think he's the answer, but not a bad squad member. Sinclair Armstrong, I still believe, needs another year on loan. A year on loan somewhere to go and play every week in either League 2 or League 1 and come back a better player. And Lyndon Dykes signed a new contract in the summer, but I think he signed that contract probably so we could sell him for bigger money than going into the last year's contract. Now, if Lyndon Dykes goes to the Euros and does okay, and which he has done well for Scotland, they might get some money, bigger money for him than what he's worth, because you know Lyndon Dykes over the last 2 seasons hasn't done what we expected him to do. So I think there's some big changes coming, and it'd be very interesting to see what route the recruitment are going to go down. They're going to go because last year Gareth brought in some experience, but there's no sell-on value. And before it was always trying to buy younger players to develop and then for sell-on value. QPR are going to go down the route of a younger squad and develop and get them better and sell them and then spend that money, what they earn, the profit on the squad to make it better.
I mean, you mentioned Clark Sauter and Cook, Kevin. Yeah, there has been a big turnaround and he has sorted the defence out. But having those two fit has really helped him. To take nothing away from Marti, who's done a really good job there. But I have seen managers fail because of the team shortcomings in that position, centre back. It's so important. I remember when you were playing, Kev, for example, and Ray Harford was a manager. Ray Harford was a fantastic coach, a good man. He had to bring Neil Ruddock, I think, in to keep us up one season. And Ruddock was great, and they tried to sign him on a permanent basis and couldn't. They then went for the kind of most Neil Ruddock-like player out there at the time, which was Jerry Taggart. And he was going to sign, and he went somewhere else at the last minute. So they ended up signing Richard Ord, who got injured in a pre-season friendly, and so never got the defender they wanted, and were a disaster defensively. And it just shows you how much that can affect a team and a manager's fortunes and how it turns out for him. So yeah, Cook and Clark sort of being fit and playing the way they did has been a massive factor. Ian, at the other end, we talked about the non-scoring strikers. I know you've got some thoughts on this, on how significant that actually is, really, for a Championship club. What do you reckon?
I mean, you've got a striker that scores you 20 goals a season. It's not going to make you worse, is it? But they're just so hard to find, aren't they? I mean, just looking at the goal scorers here now. I mean, Schmodik's at Blackburn aside. You've got Armstrong at Southampton. He costs 20 million. Somerville at Leeds got 19, similar price. Vardy at Leicester. Hadji Wright at Coventry, he's a £9 million player. Che Adams, he's a £20 million signing. Josh Sargent, £9 million. But look at the clubs they're playing for. If you're looking sort of mid-table, I mean, Ipswich are a nice example. You've got, Connor Chapman's their top goal scorer with 13, and Nathan Broadhead's also got 13. And then it's very hard to find sort of guys that, it's very simple. I'll just sign a goal scorer. Everyone wants a goal scorer, don't they? But they're not as easy to find. So you've got to find goals around the pitch. And that's what Cifuentes has had to do, really, because they weren't scoring any goals before his arrival. But now you've got Sam Field chipping in with goals. The defenders are scoring goals. And this comes from set pieces as well, doesn't it? If you're not scoring from set pieces and you've got no strikers that are scoring, you're in trouble. So you need to find a way to kind of get around it, because I just don't see, who they're going to, if they find someone in the summer that's a regular goal scorer, they, very well. But I'd say, I wouldn't hang my hat on it happening, because they've tried over the last 10, 15 years. And since Charlie Austin aside, it hasn't happened. Prior to that, you're going back to kind of Andy Thompson, someone that will score regularly sort of 20 odd goals a season. And then, Kev's side, there was 3 of you, wasn't there? Thorpe, yourself, Paul Furlong, all score goals. So the Neil Warnock way of signing sort of 3 or 4 strikers is not a bad way, is it? Because if you've got 3 strikers that can all chip in with like 9 goals a season each, you've got that. Whereas if you've got, to find the man who's going to score you 20 goals a season, it's very, very difficult to do. I mean, I'll give credit to Plymouth. They've done it, haven't they? Then Morgan Whittaker. I mean, they might go down this weekend, Plymouth, but he's got 19 goals this season. They got him from Swansea. So, I don't know what Swansea were doing. Having a guy who scores 20 goals on in your squad and he can't get a game, and you sell him to, it's a club like Plymouth. So there are players around, but it's a big job, isn't it? It's the golden egg, isn't it? The goal scorer that's going to get you promoted.
But what you're saying is, though, there is a workaround, though, isn't it? If you get the right attacking midfielders in, if you get players who can play off the front, it is possible to have a decent side without having someone up there who gets lots of goals.
Absolutely, and I think had Cifuentes been in charge for the whole season, I'd say Chair would have more goals than the 6 he's got. I'd say a fully fit Willock playing all season could probably get 10 goals, and then if you've got your 2 centre backs chipping in with goals this season, the full-backs come in, and Jimmy Dunn sticking them in from 25 yards in the last minute. You've got all of a sudden you've got goals in the team. But it'd be interesting to see what happens in the summer. I think what Rangers haven't been very good at as a club is selling players at the right time. I think they've been unlucky with Willock, who's going to sign a player that's got no hamstrings. So his optimum time to sign him was after Mike Warburton's 2nd season, but he was injured, wasn't he? In the start of next season, he's struggling to get fit. So there hasn't been an optimum time that someone's going to come in and go, we'll give you £5 million for him because he's not fit. I think with Chair, I mean, the off-field issues there, we don't know what's going to happen there. Is he, the legal issues surrounding what's happening in Belgium, I mean, is he going to be able to play next season? So you've got that to think about. You've also got, you need to get younger as well. Anderson's a good player, but he is injury prone. He's 29. You can't be relying on someone with that record to be, your main man. So you need to the team needs to get younger, doesn't it? Because, Colback's 34, Cook's 33, Begovic, what's he, 36, 37? There's no, Armstrong aside, there's no one you look at and go, he's a good young player. He's going to be sort of in the team for, the next 5 years and be a regular kind of fixture. And then you've got the issue with Clark Salter. Brilliant season, been fit, never a doubt from anyone about his ability. And he's shown that this season. But he's got 2 years left on his deal. If someone comes in for him, do you sell him? Or do you keep him?
Well, it's
or do you give him a new contract? What do you do there? It's
the obvious time to sell Clark Salter, I think. I mean, he is a good player, but if someone comes in for him and offers the right money, I mean, I know that the manager likes Morgan Fox, and he's perhaps not up to Clark Salter's level. But what you do there is, if you do sell someone like Clark Salter and replace him with a steady Eddie, it maybe gives you more options to go and sign someone better higher up the pitch, which might be something that they might want to do. But yeah, the timing of selling players is definitely something that needs to improve. I mean, but to be fair to them, I think that they were a little bit unlucky in the way that the market value of Willock and Rob Dickey and other players kind of disintegrated a little bit when they chose not to sell them at various times. They were unfortunate there, but it is something that they're going to need to do better. Before we go, some thoughts on the Coventry game on Saturday. Thankfully, a dead rubber. Kev, what do you reckon for that one? Winning end to the season?
Just before I answer that question, and we're talking about signings and players. The club needs to get some young players coming through the academy into the first team. Been saying this for years. When is it going to happen? We need. I mean, with all this FFP and this stuff, I mean, the ideal thing is for get a young player through, and like Blackburn sold Wharton to Crystal Palace, 22 million. That's them sorted now for FFP probably for the next 3 years, isn't it? That's them. I think they can act. If they stay up, they can sort of have a go. QPR need someone to come through the academy and get in the first team and play regular, and then sell, and then FFP. Regarding Coventry, a dead rubber, but I would expect QPR to go with the confidence and with the pressure off. Because sometimes when the pressure's off, you can actually go out and express your game and play even better than when the pressure's on. I think it will be a decent game. Obviously, it will be a full house. I'm going to go to the game. I didn't go to the game against Leeds, which I was disappointed. I had to do some work. I was working, and my son wasn't happy with me. But I'm bringing my son to the last game of the season on Saturday, so I'm really looking forward to it. He is as well. Be a full house. Coventry, obviously, last game of the season. You always want to win in front of your home fans. I think it'd be a decent game. I fancy us to win 2-1. I think they might still have a little bit of a hangover from the FA Cup semi-final and not making the playoffs. They were near it at one stage, and their sort of season sort of fell apart, where QPR was sort of obviously had not as good a season, but ended it with that fine victory against Leeds on Friday. So really looking forward to it. 2-1 QPR. Be a good day out for, I think there'll be over 3,000 QPR fans there. 2-1.
Ian?
Yeah, I shall be heading up to Coventry as well. I'm going to go for a draw, 1-1. I think it might be interesting to see what Cifuentes does with his selections. I'd like to see Joe Walsh maybe given a going goal. He was probably quite unlucky when the Rangers had their injury crisis a few years back, when Senny Dieng was injured and they had to bring in Dave Marshall. Walsh was injured then, so he never got a chance to play. So, they spent money on him from Gillingham. He's very highly rated, but he's never really had the chance to play. I think he played in the cup game this season against Norwich. That side, I don't think he's made too many first team appearances. So I'd like to see him get a starting goal, in a no pressure game. I think I like Coventry. I think he's done a really good job there, Mark Robbins. What Kev's mentioned there, they've managed to bring in guys like Sims and Hadji Wright for decent money because they've sold on big players. Made money on Gilchrist and the guy whose name Hamer, who went to Sheffield United. They got big money for. That's what you have to do. As for the academy, I'll just touch on that. I think some questions have to be asked. I think there are some players in the 21s teams that look okay. Probably need to be loaned out, get more experience. But the 18s this season have been a disaster. They're getting beaten sort of 6 and 7 in games, and there needs to be some accountability now in the academy. Who are they accountable to? Who's making decisions there? These are questions the club need to kind of come out and answer. But that might be for another podcast. But who is coming through?
No, I agree with you on all counts there. The academy, Joe Walsh, I definitely think he should play on Saturday. I think it's the right time to give him a game. It makes sense. And with the 1-1, I'll say 1-2. I think pressure off QPR, but also Coventry. I think they are, and they'll probably make a mockery of me saying this, but I think they're a good set of players, a good set of pros. I think Mark Robbins has got a good group there. So I would have been a little bit anxious for QPR if they had to go there with something riding on the game, because I think there was an expectation that because Coventry weren't in the playoffs, that it'll be a good game to get. I'm not sure about that. And they're a good solid group. So I don't think they're the type to sack it off and be on the beach early. So I'll say 1-1 as well.
Can I just ask, lads, who's going up? Who's going down? Who do we think?
I don't know. Birmingham, maybe Birmingham. I think that they've got a very sort of QPR at their worst moments look to them, doing stupid things and conjuring up kind of problems out of nowhere and shooting themselves in the foot. They seem like they've got a few problems. They do have a sort of relegated, troubled club look to them. What do you think, Kev?
Yeah, I look at Birmingham and I worried for them at the start of the season when they signed. Was it Tyler Roberts, who was at QPR last season? Yeah, I just thought if you just look at his look. If anyone was scouting him last season at QPR, you would just say, just don't touch him, because he just was never fit and he didn't look bothered. And Birmingham were never going to be in the top half. They were never going to be in the top 10. They were always going to be sort of mid-lower fighting relegation. And you need a good, like you say, a good group of players, and players like him, they're not the ones you need to fight for you for relegation. So Birmingham are they at home to who are they at home to?
Norwich. They're at home to
both
Norwich.
teams need to win to stay in the playoffs, and then Plymouth are
Plymouth.
Well,
I fear for.
I played for Plymouth. I fear for Plymouth. But I don't think both will win. I don't know. I don't think either will win, but I hope Plymouth stay up.
Yeah, I do worry a little bit for Plymouth. I do quite like Plymouth. I know a couple of Plymouth fans there. I think they got some of the best supporters in the country. They're a good club. They play Hull at home, which is another tricky game. And Hull are a good side. I think they and Hull need to win to get in the playoffs. If they win and West Brom don't, they're in the playoffs. Norwich probably needs a point just to get through the playoffs, just to consolidate. But goal difference should get them in there. And I just think Birmingham, they've been there before, haven't they? Last day of the season escapes. They've done it so many times. I just think they might get something.
Maybe the crowd at Birmingham might pull them through.
Yeah, but I think there's, the guy at Sheffield Wednesday deserves some credit as well. Danny Ryle, they were dead and buried, Sheffield Wednesday, and he's got to tune out of those players, and they've got a vastly inferior squad to QPR. So, fair play to them for staying up. But yes, so I'm gonna go Plymouth to go down and Birmingham just to eke it out.
Well, we'll see. Thanks, guys. We will end it there. Until next time. Cheers, everyone.